Hi there, listener. I'm Ian Willoughby, and you're very welcome to episode 2 of Czech Next Wave, a podcast produced jointly by the Czech Centres Network and Radio Prague International. Our guest this time is Michal Šimíček, a young Czech scientist who really is one to watch. Despite being only 35 years of age, Michal heads the Blood Cancer Research Group in Ostrava, a team doing extremely exciting work in the field of cell therapy. Cell therapy is a groundbreaking treatment that involves using live immune system cells to target certain kinds of tumors. And Michal and his colleagues' aim is to create universal cells that could be taken from any donor, and that'd make the treatment way more affordable than it is right now. Enjoy my conversation with Michal Šimíček, who, by the way, is the winner of the prestigious Neuron Prize for Young Scientists, in this edition of Czech Next Wave. My first question, Michal, is what's your background? Were your parents scientists or anything like that?
No. I was actually born in a tiny village into like a middle-class family. So my mother is teaching music, my father is a civil engineer. But because I was surrounded by nature, working with animals, I got sort of in love with biology, chemistry. So this struck me into the field of science later on.
You studied in Prague, and then after graduating here, you continued your studies at the University of Leuven in Belgium. I guess that was your first experience of living abroad. How did you find that?
Well, actually, even before that, I was for a couple of months in London, so I could have a chance to see really, really big town, a big city. Well, but in Belgium, indeed, it was the first time to be somewhere abroad for a longer period. It was definitely a big move for me, from a small village or even from Prague, somewhere else where I could or have to use a different language, be used to different culture, different habits. But I quite like it. It was a really new experience. I could get to know people from all over the world. It was really, really great for me.
And you moved from Belgium to Cambridge, where I guess you must have been working with some of the world's greatest scientists. How was that?
Oh, this was really from scientific or professional point of view, it was probably one of the best time in my life, as I could be in the institute where many Nobel Prize winners were working, both in the past and even during the time I was present there. Just I can say on daily basis, I could meet some of them over the lunch, have a chat, and it was very inspirative and a great time for myself.
You're now based back in Ostrava. How did that move come about?
Well, it was a bit of surprise for many people, my friends, family, colleagues, because they expect me to rather go somewhere else abroad, to stay in more famous, established scientific place than Ostrava. But I got a really interesting offer to establish a new research center, to build it almost from scratch. And also, basically, I'm from that region. Yeah, I have their roots. I have inherited some kind of farm, so that I feel responsible for. So basically, there were this kind of reasons: the challenge and the personal issues.
Was there any patriotic aspect to your return to your homeland?
Definitely. When I was 20, I was thinking I can live abroad forever. Basically, I'm a cosmopolitan person. But by time I sort of, felt kind of that I'm missing the homeland, that not just Ostrava, but Prague, Czech Republic in general, right? The good beer and nice cars and so on. So, yeah, definitely there was a bit of patriotism.
And was there any kind of, I don't like to use the word risk, but was there a kind of risk to your career? Because you were kind of high flying in your early 30s, and then you made a pretty big move to come back here.
Well, definitely it was high risky. But, we scientists tend to say high risk, high gain. Yeah. So I took this chance, and I think I'm there for 3 years, and I think we made already huge progress. The future seems to be pretty bright. And also I try to think more long term, to sort of find the proper life-work balance, right? Basically not to be stuck 16 hours in the lab, but to be able to have some time for my family, for myself, to get relaxed and be in a place which I really like.
Well, Ostrava isn't one of the Czech Republic's prettier cities. Has it been hard attracting top talent?
Well, we're trying our best. Actually, there is still some kind of stigma between the Czech population about Ostrava and science, especially the biological, biomedical science. But as I say, we basically started a couple of years ago. So we put a seed, now it's growing, and hopefully soon it will be blooming, so we can attract even more people. So our group that counts about 20-25 people is mostly based on scientists from abroad. As I checked, the Czechs, they still have some kind of prejudice about Ostrava, but I believe we will change this view soon, and our data, our progress will move us forward.
If we can look at your actual work with cell-based therapy against cancer, what exactly is your team at the Blood Cancer Research Group in Ostrava doing?
So we are working, we are part of the hemato-oncology department, so it means that we are studying and working with cancers of the blood system. Particularly, we look at multiple myeloma, acute myeloid leukemia, and similar diagnoses. We try to understand how the cancer originates, how it becomes resistant to particular treatment, and finally, as you mentioned, the goal is to develop a cell-based therapy to soon be able to treat the patients with this new technology.
And how far along that path are you?
Well, we are just a step before the clinical studies. So we did all the basic research. We moved from cell culture in the incubator in the lab in the petri dish into the experimental preclinical model on mice, on basically animals. So it seems to work. We need to still do a couple more analyses and experiments, and after proceeding with all the required paperwork, we can enter the clinical study soon, hopefully.
When I was preparing for this interview, I came across the term suicide gene, which sounds very dramatic. What is that?
Well, it's a kind of interesting mechanism or tool that the scientists or clinicians even can use to basically, let's say, regulate or modulate the treatment. So because the cell-based therapy is based on cells, right? You basically provide cells to patient. You literally infuse the patient with immune cells, with like sort of enhanced anti-cancer immune cells. But there is a risk. There's always some percentage of risk of attacking the non-cancerous healthy tissue. So if this happened, the clinicians, the MDs, have to have some tools to stop it. And the tool is based on activating the suicide gene, which is present in this new anti-cancer immune cell. And basically, when we activate it by providing certain drug to the patient, which is otherwise harmless, basically the cells commit the suicide. It literally kills the cell, activating the gene.
And these anti-cancer enhanced cells, they are modified cells of the actual patient?
At the moment, yes, but in the future, we plan to create sort of universal cell, which can be taken from any person in principle, even like healthy individual, can be modified in order to kill particular cancer, expand, freeze, and kept for later use in different patients.
I don't know much about science, but that sounds absolutely revolutionary to me.
Oh, definitely, it's a big move, because we are not limited by the certain patient, right, which often has some defects in the immune system. It cannot be used. So basically, then there is no way how to treat the patient using the cell-based therapy, but using the universal cells, that's basically breaks the limit, right? Breaks the limits.
And how are you doing this in physical terms? You're operating at this molecular level, which is obviously infinitesimally small. How are you doing it?
When I talk about my work, many people imagine like sitting behind a microscope, looking at the cells. It's just a part of my work. We often basically, work with some kind of tiny water drops that may look like just a bubble of some liquid, but we kind of know what's inside, how to mix it together, into what machine to put it, what to read, how to basically interpret it. So it's different kinds of techniques that we are applying every day to reach the goal, to basically understand how the genes look like, what the kind of mutation is there, which proteins bind to each other, what they do together, and so on and so forth.
From what I understand, our immune system is able to destroy the germs of cancer cells when we're young. But as we get older, we lose that ability. Why is that?
Yeah, it's a true, Obviously not like 100%, as everything in the biology. It's because the cancer cells, they become, as we are getting older, they accumulate more mutation, so they can basically hide from the immune system. They can pretend to be normal, so the immune system cannot recognize them. That's the first thing. And the second, that of course, the immune system itself is sort of going down by the age.
How does cell-based therapy compare with chemotherapy?
It's definitely revolutionary. It's something that wasn't here 10 years ago, and will be more and more common in next decade. And the biggest difference is that it's basically more, let's say, natural. It resembles what's already happening in our body. As you said, when we are young or younger, the immune system can actually fight the cancer or the precancerous cells. But with this new technology, with this cell therapy, we are basically re-establishing the system and directing it specifically for a particular tumor that the patient has.
And it doesn't have the brutal side effects then of chemo?
No. I mean, it might have some side effect. As I said, it potentially the healthy tissue could be attacked, but we have the tool to basically stop it using the suicide gene or other approaches. But yeah, it surely is less toxic than the classical chemo.
A big issue, of course, is cost. I was reading that for one of these treatments, it costs 10 or 15 million crowns, which is the price of a nice or even very nice apartment here in Prague. And patients need several such treatments. Surely it's impossibly expensive to almost everybody.
Right. At the moment, it's as I say, it's a pretty new technology which was just developed, and the costs are definitely high because of the autologous transplantation. So meaning basically that the cells have to come directly from the patient, have to be modified, cultivated, expanded, and so on, just for this particular patient. And all these steps require some time, a lot of material, human power, so it takes time and money, obviously. But in the future, applying, for example, the universal cells, we can dramatically lower the costs and also speed up the production, because when the patient will be diagnosed, we have the cells ready. We don't have to wait, and basically the patient will get them right away. Also, meaning the effect can be also enhanced.
And all going well, when would you hope that this treatment would be available to people?
Well, it's already available, but only for certain patients in certain clinical studies. We need to basically test it, that it's better than the chemo. We need to prove it to the authorities. So that this is the initial trials, initial cohorts that are being tested at the moment. But in let's say coming years, I don't want to be definitive, but let's say 3, 5 and more, it will become more and more common. So in 10 years from now, we will be able to provide it to a large number of patients.
And are you imagining this would be like a worldwide success?
Definitely, but compared to standard chemo, there won't be like one production place that we will create the cells and then send all over the world, but it will be more like decentralized, that each hospital or each sort of region will have its own production center that the cells can be made and then distributed to the neighborhoods.
Is your team the only team working on this?
Definitely not. There are tens or hundreds of teams all over the world. Everybody is, of course, looking at the different aspects, at different diagnoses. And we try to cooperate, but of course there's also competition. Who will be the first, who will get the better approach.
You're doing such important work. What's your main motivation, Michal? Is it scientific curiosity, or do you want to do something good for mankind? Because this sounds like it would be amazing.
Yeah, I think it's both. Of course, I'm driven by sort of the passion for the discovery, to find something new, to understand the molecular processes. But at the end, what we all in our team want is to help the patient, to basically improve the treatment, and to basically at the end even heal or cure the cancer. So this would be
I think some people listening to this will be wondering, if you guys have a big world hit with this, will you become incredibly rich?
Well, it's not the goal, but like if we are lucky, then obviously we could patent our discovery. We can then sell it to some pharma company or establish our own business. And yeah, of course, there is a potential to gain some money, but it's not like what basically attracts me into the research. So,
if we could speak for a moment more generally about cancer, is this current situation with COVID-19 a nightmare for cancer patients?
Well, it's definitely not easy. Patients with cancer have already a difficult life. because of many reasons, obviously. And this one, it actually brings another fear for them, so that they have to be sort of protected, isolated, and be aware of this particular infection. So it's definitely not something that they would be happy from.
But also, I guess they can't access the treatment as easily as they would at normal times.
Yeah, well, there are certain restrictions, but...
And people could also be afraid of going to a hospital to get a checkup for maybe breast cancer or something like that.
Yeah, this is possible. But I think it's basically if people follow the rules, wearing the face masks and all the protection, then I think the risk is minimized.
You know, one thing that has exercised my mind for many years is how much can the attitude of cancer patients affect their chances of overcoming cancer?
Oh, well, definitely it has a huge impact. It was even scientifically proved that there is sort of communication between our brain, our nervous system, immune system, and the cancer tissue. So if you basically feel like hopeless, if you are under like a huge stress, and you sort of give up on everything, then obviously your chances for like curing the cancer or surviving are dramatically lower than patients that are more like optimistic, enjoying the life and trying to fight it.
I'm sure this is true, but for me it's kind of troubling in one way, because it suggests that the person who has cancer and maybe doesn't get better and dies is in a sense responsible because they didn't keep their chin up and keep smiling.
Well, I wouldn't say so. I mean, it's, as I say, it's a sort of like a probability and statistic. So it doesn't mean that everyone that will smile will cure cancer. It can prolong the life. It can make the life better, definitely, than just sitting in a chair and like crying. So that's it. Like, I mean, there is no simple answer to this.
Obviously, a lot of cancers recur. Would your treatment, the cell-based therapy, be particularly useful in that regard?
Oh yeah, definitely. This type of therapy is or will be likely quite versatile in a way that we can basically change the cells, change the anti-cancer cells in a way that they will recognize the tumor that will, in the time of progression, will modify somehow itself, right? Because the reason for relapse is that it changes somehow, right? It's not responsive to the treatment that was applied initially. So there are some changes on the molecular level, and we can basically attack these particular changes using the cell therapy that can be modified even in the real time in patient body.
To change the topic completely, earlier you mentioned the fact that you have a farm.
Right.
Tell me about it. How big is it? What kind of farming do you do?
Well, it's a farm in a tiny village near Ostrava, but already in a mountain region. It was built by my grandfather, early 20th century. It's a quite historical house with some buildings for animal, huge gardens, some orchards. We have about 200 trees, some fields, forests, and we try to take care of this. Regarding animals, at the moment we have sheep, some pigs, geese, chickens, bees, and so on.
I have many relatives who are farmers, and my impression was always that they had to work like all hours. How do you manage to run a farm and run your institute?
And have a small son on top of it. Well, I have a great wife. Yeah? Without my wife, I think it would be just impossible. Also, I wake up every day, let's say 4 a.m. First I do quickly work with the animals, then change the clothes, go to work, come back at like 4-5 p.m. and just continue on the farm, right? So it's a sort of constant work, but the work in the farm helps me to clear my mind, to get like relaxed, or have some time to like think about particular stuff, particular things differently, and it's a great. Basically, somebody goes to gym, I go to, I don't know, to my animals and.
Do you ever have any like great ideas when you're milking a cow or something, some breakthrough?
Well, we don't have cows yet. It would be too much work actually. But yeah, definitely. When I'm like recently, I was riding tractor on the field and just thinking about particular problem that we had in the lab, and I got quite cool idea. Then the students would test it and tested it, and it's turned out to be true. So it's actually working, the approach for me.
By the way, is your wife Czech?
Yes, she's Czech.
Already, Michal, you've had great success and recognition. You've won the Czech Neuron Prize, and even though you're only in your mid-30s, you've been cited in scientific journals a lot more than many well-known older scientists. What do you hope to achieve in your career, which I'm sure will be glittering?
Well, there are many goals that I would like to achieve. Probably the biggest one is to be able to bring the discovery from the lab bench to the patient bed. This is the biggest goal we have, obviously. Then there are other more academic goals, to publish high quality papers, not like in terms of quantity to have many publications, but just few, but really groundbreaking, sort of nature science style. So this is the academic goal.
Dr. Michal Šimíček, who really does seem to be doing amazing work in the field of cancer research, and at the age of only 35. Michal has been the second guest in our podcast, Czech Next Wave, which is jointly produced by the Czech Centres Network and Radio Prague International, and focuses on emerging talents in the arts and, as in this case, beyond. Our music is also by another talented young Czech, the keyboard whiz Ondřej Pivec. From me, Ian Willoughby, thank you very much indeed for listening. Do join us again in a few weeks' time.